Nellie Sciutto, and I've been an actor for, well, a really long time.
Here's my number. Call me.
I've worked with some of the most famous people in Hollywood.
Anything unusual occur?
Define unusual. And taken on some roles I'd rather forget.
Now my industry friends join me with their stories of faking it, making it, and taking it in Hollywood.
And now, here's Nellie.
Hi, I'm Nellie Sciutto. Welcome to 50 Moments, faking it, making it, and taking it in Hollywood as a working actor. Taking it being the operative word. And my podcast is part of the book. I go through chapters of the book. And today my guest is Tracy Newman, who I'm so excited to have. She is a writer, a musician, a pioneer, a real Renaissance woman. And I just want to say, before I welcome her officially, I wanted to say that I have to ask her at the end of the show about her oddest Hollywood experience. And I wanted to share mine very briefly, which is I did this great movie when I was in my early 20s in LA. Mark Sykes cast it. And I was a secretary. And I've worked with all the Baldwin brothers in my history. And this was with Daniel Baldwin. And I was so excited. I had all these scenes. And then, I have tapes from all my work. And they started as beta tapes. Then they were VHS tapes. Then they were CDs. Now they're on the computer. And this was a VHS tape. And I brought it home. I had just been married, and I show my husband, and it turns out I was in a soft porn film, and I had no idea. So I'm an accidental porn star. So that's my I was mortified. I was so excited about this job. I'm like, what is going on? But anyway, without further ado, let's welcome Tracy. Tracy, I tracked you down. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Did you see me on Vicki Abelson's show, and that's how you know me?
No, I saw your name in writing credits.
Oh, in writing credits.
Because I'm actually a person who reads the credits. Are you?
Yeah, I do too. I read the credits. Although I still miss things. You know, somebody will say they wrote on a series that I watched like religiously.
Yes.
And I'll realize I didn't never notice their name. So it's weird.
But it is funny. You notice the people in the industry when they like stay for the credits at the end of a movie and they're like, oh my God, that's Bob. Or, whatever. They want to know who did what.
Yeah.
Sound. Like we care about that stuff, So, So I want to talk to you initially because of that about your writing career. So explain how you got into the writing business. You wrote on so many great sitcoms, et cetera.
Well, first of all, let me just say I live in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Which, if anybody out there listening and watching aspires to writing or being involved in TV, you really do have to move. Mm-hmm. From wherever you live, you have to be in New York or LA. That's my feeling about it. So
no, I think you're right. And absolutely right. You have to at least spend time there.
Yeah. You got to get a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand the vibe. But anyway, I would never have written for it didn't even ever occur to me to be a writer. That's like, I think a big shock because there are a lot of people in their 20s who they want to write. I was writing, but I didn't think of myself as a writer. And I joined the Groundlings in 1972. We started the Groundlings, which is an improv company here in LA that has been the farm company really for SNL for many years. And my sister ended up on SNL, and I drifted away from performing as time went on. I was teaching there and directing there, and ended up co-writing a lot of sketches, but I didn't think of myself as a writer. And then one of the Groundling guys said to me, our friends are running Cheers. This was in 1990 or 1991. Mm-hmm. Bill and Sherry Steinkellner, they're running Cheers. They were from the Groundlings too. Mm-hmm. And he said, they asked me if I had a script or anything. And I said, no. And they said, well, why don't you write one? He said, but I don't know how to type. So he asked me if I wanted to partner up because I found him very funny. Yes. This was a guy who was very funny and who I knew really well, So I said, I think we can do that. So I watched a couple of Cheers. I had a child at the time. So I was, it was like hard to concentrate. I don't know if you have children, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So anyway, but I watched Cheers and I watched other shows. Murphy Brown was on the show, was on at that time.
Mhm.
And I said, yeah, let's write, a Cheers. Let's just do that. So we wrote a Cheers. And of course, everybody in Hollywood knows if you want to get on a show, you don't write that show
Right.
as a spec script. You write another show. So we had to write a Murphy Brown. And then we got some freelance things. And then we approached the Steinkellners who were running Cheers, and they didn't hire us. And then about a year later, he and I were doing what's called a looping job. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay, we can explain that for people who don't know. But anyway, he and I were looping something, and we got a phone call at the looping stage from Sherry Steinkellner asking us if we wanted to be on Cheers.
Okay.
And that was our first staff job in 91.
See, that doesn't surprise me because you're the founding member of the Groundlings. And like, if you think about it, improv is kind of the key to all writing, right? It's not that big of a jump.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously there's plenty of writers out there who've never taken improv, but that is what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Improv is, really just responding and saying yes to things. And then it's sort of yes, and that's one of the rules.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, that's true. And so is this.
Mm-hmm.
And so because that's true, this is true. And so you're building a story, usually in the real world, it's from, memory,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times it's imagination and or a combination of the two. But so to have your first staff job be Cheers, it was the 10th season of Cheers, and it was such a big massive hit show that we worked from then on. We never stopped working after that.
Yeah. So by the way, I worked with Ted Danson on a show called Ink that he did, which was so much fun. As an actor, not a
The
writer.
greatest. Isn't he
He's
the
the
best?
greatest. I got gifts on my doorstep every week. I was like, I'm a little guy. What's going on? But
He told me once I was at this thing and we're talking about grinding coffee. You're grinding your own coffee. This is a long time ago.
Mhm.
And he says, you have to grind it for 15 seconds, right? Every morning when I grind coffee, I think of Ted Danson.
That's hilarious.
I think of 15 seconds and I think Ted, it's such a funny thing. And I've seen him over the years. And every time I said, I know I've told you this story.
But I think of you when I have my morning coffee.
I think of you every morning.
So the other shows you wrote on a lot of big shows. What else did you go on to do since you accidentally fell into?
After Cheers, we wrote on Bob, which was
Yes.
Bob Newhart's final attempt at a show, and it stayed on for 2 seasons. And what an amazing experience to write with for Bob Newhart.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I mean, he's a genius. He was a genius.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from there to a couple of shows that didn't succeed. One was a thing called Hardball. And I'm sure I'm forgetting, I've forgotten because some of them were just 1 or 2 shows and that was the end of it. Then we went to Ellen.
Yeah.
And Ellen was the sitcom Ellen, which was at that time called These Friends of Mine or These Friends of Ours or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then they changed the name to Ellen and they hired new people. And my partner, whose name, by the way, is Jonathan Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I got hired on Ellen and we stayed there for 4 seasons. And we ended up being chosen by the network and the studio to write the first half of the coming out episode, which is the part that ends with her announcing that she's gay over the airport PA, which, by the way, was her idea.
Yeah.
Which I think she had seen on Wings, actually, which was
I love that
an
show.
airport show. I did too. So I mean, I don't know, or maybe she saw something that was like that. But anyway, because she pitched that. And we won the Emmy for that. And once again, I'm just talking about the business now.
Mm-hmm.
Here we started on Cheers, so we never stopped working because that was our main credit, our big credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we won an Emmy. And again, we never stopped working because you win an Emmy and suddenly everybody wants you, whether they know you or you're writing or not. It doesn't matter. It's like a badge.
Yes, of course it is.
And we had a great agent, by the way. We had a great agent.
Who was your agent?
His name is and was Chris Silberman, who is now the, he was he was the president of ICM, not when we were
Yes.
with him, but more recently within the last 10 years. And then he formed that merger with CAA.
Yes.
So now he's on the board of directors of that. And he's still a fairly young man.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I was at ICM as a writer with Diane Fraser, who I loved.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just want to tell you this quickly. Like, I started writing by writing stand-up, and I did Pretty Funny Women with Chelsea Handler at the Comedy Store, and I flopped. I fell on my face. Like, I was terrible.
You mean you got up and performed?
Oh, and I was like, please God, if I can get through these 5 minutes.
It's the hardest thing. I don't even know how anybody does it.
Nobody laughed. Nobody would talk to me afterwards. And then I ended up on a show called Girls Behaving Badly, writing jokes for Chelsea Handler. And then I got pregnant, so I started writing for I didn't have your writing career, but I wrote at E! Entertainment. I wrote a couple little fun reality shows. But I really I was going to ask you this. The writer's room to me is the toughest spot to be. And I wondered how you felt about the writer's room, because it's like, if you're not funny, it's just like stand-up. It's like, get out.
Let's preface all this by saying I quit the show that we created, which was According to Jim. I quit after 2.5 years of that, like 2002. So it's been more than 20 years since I've written television, which means that it was 1991 when I was in my first writer's room, and I was speechless.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's hard.
It's not like it is like improv, because that's scary too, but it's worse. It's like, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. You feel like, oh my God, there's 8 people in the room here, or 10 people. Most of them are guys. And in fact, in that case, all of them except for one other woman they were all guys. And I thought, okay, so I'm 1/10 of the situation here. I don't think I said a word. We wrote scripts for them that season, but I don't think I said a word in the room.
I understand. It's intimidating,
It's so, and then those guys that were running Cheers at that time, the people who hired us had moved to another office and were coming up with the Bob Newhart show, Bob. So they weren't really in the room. So it was run by 4 young, well, especially one, but 4 young guys from like National Lampoon or something like that, or Harvard or whatever, they were like Harvard Lampoon. They were brilliant and so fast, and not the nicest people to me. I was an older woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just was, and my partner was uncomfortable too. And he was a young man.
Yeah.
So
it is the toughest place to be. And so,
I mean, once you're comfortable in there, once you master it, it's like anything else that you've spent time on and had experience on.
yeah.
You think, well, why was I so scared? But I was terrified.
Well, I'm looking, I can't help but look at all the guitars behind you, and you have a clip of you playing the banjo as well. Very Steve Martin of you. And so I wanted to know what came first?
Oh, guitar, I mean, it's why I quit television.
Okay.
Even though I was already, I'm not going to say how old I was, but I was old. Believe me when I tell you I was old. When I quit the Belushi show, I was old. But I thought, I'm going to go back to being a singer-songwriter.
That's great.
And it was, I got a band together eventually, and for about 15 years, that's what I did, and traveled around, and, it was great. But it was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But what did you ask me that got me on this?
Well, I didn't.
Oh, the music
first.
So, but when I was 14, I started playing the banjo, the guitar.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was performing as a singer-songwriter in New York. I wasn't writing. Because I came up around the time Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell came up, and they were writing, and I didn't understand it. I didn't I was doing their songs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I didn't understand the business at all. You know.
Well, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's better to just kind of be like, okay. I tell my son that all the time. You know?
That's how I was. I just sort of followed my heart.
Speaking of magic and music, you were on the Johnny Carson show. We have a clip of that. Let's play it quickly.
Let me try it.
Certainly.
Do this. Aha!
Now, Moldo senses a ringer.
Oh, hey!
Okay, so tell me about being on the Johnny Carson show and how that came about.
Oh, wow. So I think it all has to start by saying that I was going out with dating Ricky Jay, who was at the time a very, very well-known magician.
Okay.
Mainly for me, in my experience, he was a close-up magician, which means cards and sometimes coins, but cards. And everything he was doing was gorgeous. And he was living at my house with me, and I was watching. It never occurred to me to do cards, but he would go out of town periodically, like for a week, and then come back. And I just picked up a deck of cards one day. The full disclosure, I was stoned. And I say that because all the general anxiety that's in me at that time, when I would smoke a little bit of pot, it would disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And it would slow me down. And which what I needed was to be slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up a deck of cards, and I remember looking at them and remembering this particular shuffle that he was able to do. And I looked at the cards, and I got in the position that I remember seeing him do. And it was like I thought, I have to make these cards look bigger, because I can't do this if I don't, And so again, when you're stoned, you can sort of do stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I feel like an advocate.
Things bigger. You can make things bigger.
You can make things bigger. So they looked like pieces of cardboard, as opposed to sort of thicker paper, whatever cards are made of. And it just was one of those things where when bam, 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 every other card right in front of my face. I'm holding my hands like this because that's the position that I was in when I did it.
Mm-hmm.
One half the deck down here, half the deck up here, hit it on a corner, and it just turned into this like perfect shuffle. And that's what I had seen him do. Well, I thought, I can do this. I can do this, And so for about 2 weeks, I never did it, like I couldn't do it again, not that day. So for 2 weeks, I worked on getting back to that without being stoned, and I kept working on it, and finally I got it, and I started learning to do the fans he was doing and the spreads and stuff. I mean, I've figured some stuff out, and I just did it. And I guess there were no women, or very few women in the world probably doing that at that time. I mean, why would they? This little dilettante comes along, that's me, who plays guitar and has good eye-hand coordination.
Mm-hmm.
And I started perfecting it to the point where I could do people's hands, women's hands in card games and in whatever they were. Whenever there was a woman card handler on television or in the movies, they knew that they could call me.
I love that.
That just happened over a period of time. I got 8x10s done of me with cards and stuff like that.
Just your hand, 8x10.
Just my hands, and sometimes my face, but mostly my hands. Yeah.
And then John.
So anyway,
called you up, right?
Well, no. What happened was, I'm sorry, but it seems like a long story, but I think it's interesting because this was 1974.
Wow.
So you think back on that, and the things that you're going to hear in this story of what I did, you couldn't do that now. You'd be shot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a Bob Hope special. I was doing Diane Cannon's hands in a live show in a card game that was a takeoff on a movie called Paper Moon.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
course.
So she was like the Tatum O'Neal character, only she's a full-grown woman. But anyway, so they got to where she's supposed to deal cards in the sketch, and they stopped the tape. She left. I came in with her same blouse on. I did a bunch of, things with shuffles and fans and just special things that I had kind of worked up. And then I stopped and I took a bow and I left, and she came back in, and they sped up what I did. They showed that, and then she came back in and finished the sketch. Okay. So that was the thing that I was going to do, or that I did when we did the taping, but we had to rehearse that a week before that. So I was there rehearsing, and Johnny Carson comes running in his makeup bib.
Yes.
And he said, "I heard there was a woman doing cards here, and I wanted to meet you." Now think about that.
Yeah.
That's like, things
got?
are too busy now to have that happen. So, I met him, we talked for a while, and then, he went back and did his show. And then the week that I did the show, which was a week later, we actually taped it. I had written a sketch between in that week for me and Ricky to do on the Carson show, for me and Ricky Jay. And so when I thought I'll go over to his studio when I finish taping, but I saw him on his golf cart in the studio being driven somewhere, and I jumped in front of the cart.
Wow.
Now that's what I'm saying. I could have been, security would have really hurt me.
Today, you'd have your picture everywhere on every lot.
Honestly, I jumped in front of the cart. They had to stop. I handed him the thing. I remember me, it's Tracy Newman, the girl who does cards. And he went like that, and he took the sketch. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call from the head writer saying, "We've rewritten this sketch for you and Johnny to do."
Wow.
So that's how that happened. And I'll tell you, those are things that I don't see how that happens these days, but I guess things do.
Well,
but
I got to be on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno in a sketch.
I must have been fun.
But I auditioned, and like the next day they had me come in, and it was funny because I speak French. So I was speaking French and he was speaking fake French to me. And the whole sketch was that I lift my arms, I'm in a little tank top, and I have fake hairy underarms. Because you're making fun of
you're French.
Yes, exactly.
French.
Like, I mean, like this long and black hair like a gorilla. But it was fun. I felt like to sit in that seat, just like you said, just to sit in that seat next to, it was a much bigger deal. Johnny Carson, like that's real television history.
Well, it's a different time.
Exactly.
That's what it is. It's a different time.
So I have to ask you, are you still performing music? What are you doing today?
These days I'm still performing music. That's probably the main. I mean, I am involved at the Groundlings, not as a performer, although once in a while I end up on stage. But I go to the shows and I help with certain things around there now and then. And I'm a songwriter. I write songs. I do shows. Not as many though. I mean, I did McCabe's, which is the kind of a big venue for this. It seats about 150 people. So to me, that's a big thing. It's not like I'm talking about the Staples Center or something,
Yeah.
But I did last February in 2024 as the last full length show that I did. I don't really accept those anymore because I don't practice as much.
Yeah.
So I
probably
do
don't
with
need
songs. Now I do songs people request, and the ones that they request I remember. Sometimes I get out there and I'll do something I don't remember very well, and of course there's a lot of swearing.
Yes.
And I do that. So
well, yeah, I have to tell you something. When you're talking about this, I'm glad first of all, you look 12. But when you said something about your age and you're talking about the years, I want to tell you my trick when people ask me my age, because I hate it. I always go, "How much do you weigh?" It shuts people up right away. So please start using it when people ask you, because I get
that's
really
a good one.
offended.
I think I'll start doing that with my grandson.
Yes. He doesn't care how much he weighs, though.
That's true.
But it's usually women who ask, and I'm like, "How much do you weigh?" And they're like, they're not going to answer. So, I mean, you've had such an amazing career, and I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. I literally started watching what you were doing, then I started looking you up, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to her on Facebook and see if she'll do this. So I can't thank you enough for doing it. You're a very impressive woman. You're a hero to me, and I'm grateful that you've been on the show. So
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
thank you so much, and good luck. Please, you're going to have to tell me when you're performing next, because I'm in LA all the time.
Well, I'll be at Boulevard Music on August 9th, but that I'm just doing 4 songs in that. So.
Okay. I want to be kept in the loop. All right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's been another episode of 50 Moments. Thank you all for listening. And Tracy, thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank
Tracy
you.
Newman, guys, look her up. For information on my book, check out nelliesblog.com, and I'm on all social media platforms. Just search for Nellie Sciutto.